Hey girl, hey.
Hey.
It is the Hey Girl, Hey podcast on Urban Media. Today we're going to go full 30 on this app because we're talking about mental illness and how funny it is not. Recently, we've had, well, first things first, I will reintroduce our guest, Jessica Gurley, who is a licensed social worker, a therapist, and a mental health consultant, highly recommended by Facebook, by the way. Let me just tell you, she's highly recommended. A lot of folks mention her because we went out fishing to find someone who can professionally tell us how we should handle these types of situations. And just because these stories have happened to celebrities, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to us and to our families and in real life. So we're talking about the stories that have affected some of our celebrity friends like Kanye West, Tamar Braxton, and Nick Cannon, just to name a few. There's more.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. But just recently, Kanye West is in the news, and he's probably in the news right now. I went to Jessica's Facebook page, and she gave us a great rundown of Kanye West's week or 2 weeks, just the past 2 weeks. He announced a run for presidency. He released a single or an album. He went on a radio rant or an interview rant. He withdrew from the presidential run. Then he went back in when he realized he increased 2% in polls. Okay. He held a rally with a bulletproof vest on and no microphone, and then had a complete meltdown during the rally. Made some I don't want to say crazy, made some claims that he and Kim Kardashian, his wife, considered abortion, and that Chris sold the sex tape for profit, and a lot of claims. Went on a Twitter rant he had a Twitter rant. He said he was going to divorce Kim. He accused her of, I guess, having some type of affair with Meek Mill, and Meek Mill's like, what? Right. Like, what?
Did you imagine Kim? Like,
Kim
what?
has since come to his defense as a wife, saying, look,
right,
it's not funny.
Yeah,
this is not funny. He is having a meltdown. I was surprised to hear, and I don't know why I was surprised to hear it, because I feel like they're such a thirsty family for ratings, that she halted production around this whole meltdown. She was like, I don't want any of this on the show. I don't want my kids involved. So we'll talk about Kanye West. Just that whole meltdown, suffering from bipolar disorder. And he had a bipolar episode. Is that true? Jessica, can you what did you think about this story when it first broke, and what are your thoughts on it?
So I actually been following Kanye West for some time, because mental health and mental illness is like my passion. So This is not his first breakdown. This is not his first time he stopped taking his medication. If y'all can recall, he had that whole TMZ breakdown where he was on there with Van. And he was just going on a rant. And so that's when I really started looking to, like, what is going on with Kanye West, because I thought he was bipolar. And, as a licensed therapist, you're not supposed to assume, and you're not allowed to really, like, publicly say somebody has a diagnosis until they publicly say it. So I found out that he actually had bipolar. He made an album called Bipolar. I like being bipolar. I hate being bipolar. It's amazing. That's what he named the album.
Wow.
So, if you look it up, that was one of the pictures I put up on Facebook. Like, he literally named his album that. And so bipolar is one of those things that show up differently in everybody, but he has the manic type. So that means he'll go on tangents if he's off his medication or his medication is not regulated. He'll have delusions. He'll have these very grandiose perceptions of himself. Like, I used to have a client who say, I own a bank in Israel. Meanwhile, he makes, like, he lives on Social Security. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would tell people he owns car lots and things like that. And I literally would have people come up to me like, can you buy a car for that guy? And I'd be like, no, he's delusional. He needs to regulate his medication, things like that. And so other thing is just, elevated mood swings where you're just, very emotional, and then you're very angry at the same time. And then the biggest thing that Kanye West is going through is called flight of ideas. And that's where you just have all these different ideas come to you, like, boom, boom, boom. And so I think the Black community, what they have to realize is that while Kanye is very talented, he's probably a great father. He has all these great characteristics. He is bipolar. And I don't think nobody wants to accept that. And I think there is some false information that if you are bipolar, you can't be successful. And they're like, he can't be bipolar and successful. And there's a lot of people with bipolar that are successful. Jennifer Lewis, I posted her video as well.
Yes.
She's a great actor.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who live with the diagnosis and they live with it successfully. You know, engineers. I knew a pilot that was bipolar that I had to work with. And so it's just like, we have to get past this notion that people can't have mental illness and be successful. So that's the first thing. And so the other thing is, a lot of people with bipolar will tell you that some of the symptoms work for their benefit. And so I believe for Kanye West, when he wants to stay up and do a CD all night, or, you know, work on an album, that might be one of the things that he likes, you know, because even his wife came out and tweeted a couple years ago when I started following his story, you know, when he's off his medication, that's the best. He's, you know, just talented, and that's you can see his talents.
Wow.
And so that's like taking his medication, because he can probably go 24 hours without sleeping. There's some people who are bipolar, they will go 3 days without sleeping, then they'll crash. They'll have this fully, you know, high manic episode. They'll be spending money, having a lot of sex, and all this different things. I'm sorry if I got too blunt, but
no, we're grown.
Okay. You know, if you want to see a really good movie that depicts it, and again, everybody's bipolar is different. I don't ever want to make it seem like everybody has
like it's general.
Yeah, but Silver Lining is a really good movie that that depicts somebody with bipolar.
Yes.
And if you've seen the movie, you know, she slept with everybody in the office when she had a depressive episode and things like that. But that happens in real life. Like, so we need to start asking people what happened to you, not what's wrong with you. You know, what is going on with you, you know, instead of what is wrong with you. Because a lot of times we don't know that. You know, we see some girl being promiscuous or a boy acting out, and we automatically assume they're bad people or they're you know, just attention seeking. And sometimes there is mental illness behind that. So I don't know. I can go on about this for 3 hours. So stop me when you need to.
I didn't know that there were different types. So when you mentioned the I don't want to say what is it? Not fantasizing. What is it called?
Grandiose.
When you're grandiose.
The one where you're imagining that you're doing one thing and it's not true, like the guy who was selling cars.
So that's when you're delusional. When you're delusional, or you just have so it's having delusions that are grandiose. Grandiose is a symptom, but some people's delusions are like paranoid, or some people's delusions are grandiose. Like paranoid delusions are like, the cops are watching me. They have, you know, systems in the walls to keep me here, and I got metal plates in my brain. Like, I've heard all these things. I worked on a psych unit for 3 years.
Right.
And so when people are off their medication, like those are the things that come out. And so Kanye West has said, my medication works. He said on 2 different interviews that I've watched him, my medication works. He was like, sometimes I just don't want to take them.
Because he's not as creative when he takes it. It's cloudy.
It stimulates him.
I had someone in my past call me years ago, and she said, can you please tell my family that I'm not crazy? And I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And would you remember that exhibit I had at the museum? I was like, what? The exhibit that I have at the museum, and I'm in a yellow dress. And I was like, what are you talking about? See, why is nobody understanding? Why doesn't anybody hearing me? Came out of the blue. See, no warning signs. I hadn't, maybe I wasn't paying attention because I didn't, you know, you never see someone who gradually goes through that process. You just see the person that's already in it.
Right.
Episode. So you don't see anybody, you don't see signs. You're not looking for them because you're not, and that's just on my ignorance, not understanding that. I don't know what happened, what triggered it. And my response was, girl, you crazy, you high. Because I didn't know. And so is that something that we need to stop doing? Should we recognize those signs if we have a loved one or friend that says that they've been to Paris and, you know, they ain't even been to Paris Street?
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? So what are the signs? Are there signs? And what should we do?
I mean, and I hate to say it because this is probably going to sound so unprofessional, but you can Google the symptoms of any diagnosis. And I'm not saying diagnose your family members, right?
Right.
But if somebody tells you they're struggling with something, maybe try to get a lot of the signs and symptoms and say, hey, look, maybe you need to see a therapist because this is something that is similar to what I found, you know what I mean? The information I found. And so a lot of people always ask me, like, how do I get my first somebody to go get an evaluation? Like, how do I get somebody into going to go see a therapist? And honestly, it's just trying to find something that interests that person that would make them want to go to therapy. So for Kanye West, a lot of people kept commenting, how do we help Kanye West at this point? He seems like he's having a ball, he's, going on these tangents. How can Kim help him? And so one thing we have to recognize, sometimes family is not going to be able to help. And as therapists, we are told, don't try to fix your family. It's just not going to work. Refer them to somebody else. It's just not going to work. And the reason being is they know you from a whole nother perspective. And so while the world knows you as therapists, they know everything, the ins and out of you. And sometimes it's just not going to work because they mad at you about the time you took their tuna sandwich in 10th grade or something. So it's really important to just try to figure out what's on that person's mind at that moment. Like, what is most important to you right now? So if Kanye say, the most important thing to me is making an album right now. Okay, say, all right, okay. So I want you to be able to go on tours and be saying, say things clearly. I don't want you to forget your lyrics. So let's go get you on some medication. Boom. That might resonate with him versus I'm gonna get you a doctor and you need help. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something that they want, what their goal is, even in their delusions. So a lot of people would call me I was one of the only social workers that really was passionate about severe mental illness. So a lot of people would call me in the hospital and be like, Jessica, we cannot get this man to go on the psych unit. And I would go and I would be like, so what do you like? What do you care about most right now? Even if he's delusional and think he owns a car lot. And I'd be like, oh, okay, so you own a car lot. All right, so let's go to the psych unit. We can call a couple car lots and see if we can get you some new cars on your car lot. Like, you can even play in their delusions, not to be rude.
Or take advantage.
Right. But you have to find something they're interested in that moment to really get them to go get help.
Right.
Wow. Did you all have any
deal with because I had a friend a long time, one of my best friends still to this day, she was going through a bad time. And I think drugs had something to do with it. But one of her diagnoses was bipolar disorder. And I noticed that, off the jump. She would call me all day and like, Jerry, why don't you answer the phone? Listen to the part, and I'm just like, oh, I was busy or I was working or whatever like that. And her mother and her sister would always keep up with me with everything. She was in and out of psych wards and stuff like that. And there was times where she was like a little bit rude, not just to me, but to, everyone else. And I didn't take it personal, because I knew it's what she was going through. She's okay now. Like, she's back to like normal and stuff. But how do you deal with someone like a close friend or a loved one who has this disorder without losing yourself, if that makes sense?
That's a great question. And I think some people feel so bad that they don't want to set boundaries. You absolutely can set boundaries. Put it in writing, text it to them and say, this is what I expect and this is where I can support you. Because no, you're not a mental health worker. And sometimes I try to make my posts, I really am like really thoughtful about my posts because I don't want anybody to feel like they have to be a social worker or a therapist. Like, no, they need to go. You can help them get help, but you have to take care of yourself as well. So setting boundaries is really important. Don't feel so bad that you think you can't set boundaries, because I think people are so scared that somebody's going to commit suicide and things like that. No. So once you have those boundaries in place, stick to those boundaries because they will try to overstep them unless they're like severely sick, like Kanye West is. Like, maybe you can do that once or twice, like allow them to overstep a little bit. But for the most part, throughout that relationship, you need to have boundaries. Don't call me after 9. If you need something, this is what you can do. Like, it's okay to put those boundaries in there. And I had that with my clients. I see clients that have bipolar and other diagnoses, anxiety, and I have to put those boundaries in place as well.
Wow.
I have a family member that's dealing with that, and the interesting thing when Kiki was saying, like, how did you see it pop up, or it just happened? And I was more and more I read about it. Um, I saw that some ages it gradually comes upon them, like in their 20s.
Yeah.
Like 25, and it just. But
And
there's a
you don't even see
history.
it.
Yeah, there's a history in the family, but with certain people, it kind of just gradually, and with this person, it gradually came upon them when like they were like 25 years old, and it just kind of came, and just the way they were thinking about things, and I kept on asking them, does that sound right? Like it was just so the whole conversation with us, and I had to keep asking them, well, does that sound right? Would someone be talking to you through the radio like that? Would that happen? And in their mind, they actually, so I had to stop like saying, does that sound right? Because it sound right to them.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
yes, I was like, well, how about this? Let's just turn that radio off. Let's not listen to the radio right now. That's not going to happen. And so that's what we had to do. I mean, because they like actually left the car, got out of the car because the radio was telling them to do things.
Wow.
So yeah. So it was like, let's turn the radio off. Let's just drive in silence. Let's just do this. Let's not, let's talk to each other. Whenever you hear something, talk to me. Talk to me. So I mean, I've been around it and I've seen it, and I've been reading so much about it. I had to just read so much about it just to understand, to deal with that person. And I had to set that boundary because I started to get calls like 3 a.m. when I'm the kind of person that my family members will call me at 3 a.m. because, creative people think of ideas in the middle of the night. And sometimes I'm already up. Like, I already have an idea. I'm like, oh. And so when they call, they're like, you're up? I'm like, yeah, because I was working on a project. So they know to call me. But with this particular person, I had to say, hey, if you can't hold off till 6, or is it something where I have to call somebody to have them come get you? Then you call me at 3 o'clock when you can't take it anymore.
Now, see, I like hearing that because as family, with your family, and even Jerry, with you and your situation, you're addressing it. Many in our community ignore it. We shove it to the side, or we place that person in the attic if it's a family member. We saw the movie Soul Food where you had Uncle Pete in the attic. Uncle Pete wasn't nothing wrong with Uncle Pete anyway. He was just just quiet. But I have an uncle who talked to himself. And we just saw is Uncle Billy who talked to himself. That was it. I was telling Jessica off mic, no one in my family ever talked about mental illness. We never talked about going to see a therapist. We never talked about seeking help or anything like that. It was just, you just have that special cousin or that special uncle, and that was, don't leave the kids on with them. And that's just, he's not going to hurt nobody. That's just put a helmet on him, and that's it. And we would make a joke out of it. And that's not the case. And I don't know if this is a different type of mental illness today versus what our family members had to deal with back then, or maybe we're just recognizing it more.
Yeah, I think it's the same one with a diagnosis now.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because the history shows that they used to put people with mental illness in a nursing home. Yeah. Just like they put women in nursing homes. Like the nursing home was where they shoved everybody with the older adults.
Right.
But now in mental institutions, like, so those were the two places they used to go. But now that they have community integration programs, that's why you see more people that have, schizophrenia and, these severe diagnoses in our communities, which they always should have been. And so I want to make something real clear, because a lot of people like to use the word crazy and the C word. People with mental illness is actually most of the time victims than a predator or somebody that, criminals. And so that's really, really important to note. Like, seeing what Kanye West is going through might feel like, is he going to hurt somebody? And most of the time, no. Like, they have like a 1% violence rate. Like, they're most likely scared of you, and they're scared of themselves. Like, I'm pretty sure, some of them things that come to their mind scares them themselves. You know what I mean? And so people with bipolar and schizophrenia, they have the highest suicide rate because they can't stop those thoughts coming to their head so rapidly, and those thoughts scare them.
Jessica, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Sorry. I'm glad you brought up suicide, only because suicide came up in 2 cases as related to celebrities, Nick Cannon and Tamar Braxton. Now, Nick Cannon never confirmed that he was going to commit suicide, but it was implied from a tweet.
Yeah.
It was implied, and then he dealt with suicide close to home. A friend of his had committed suicide, and it hit him big time. With that, he was saying that he was a coward to do it, and it was someone that he knew that was brave enough to go through with it. And then you have Tamar Braxton, who's loved by a lot of people, famous family, famous singer. You know, we say she's a little extra and she's a little dramatic, and there were reports that she allegedly attempted suicide. There was a suicide attempt where she was found unconscious. Doesn't say if there were. I don't recall seeing any reports that there were pills. I know that there was alcohol, and it says it was implied that there were drugs involved. When you think about suicide, and you I don't want to, why does the word correlate come to mind? But I guess correlate the idea that there's a mental breakdown, which can result in a suicide attempt. Some failed, some successful. How can people who go through these types of things, whether they're rich or poor, what are we doing as a community to start to put these things out there to make these people feel this way? And how can we make them not feel that it's necessary, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, so suicide, for people see it one or two ways, but a lot of people see it as a solution, right? It's a solution to my pain. It's like you take a pain pill to get rid of a headache. Some people say, look, if I want to get rid of this pain and agony for a long period of time, I'm just going to take my own life. And so seeing it from that perspective, we have to give them other solutions, right? And let them know, first of all, you're not alone. Because I think seeing so much on social media, you would think everybody living their best life but you. And that's just not true. And so just let them know they're not alone, and that, there's other solutions can really help a person. You know what I mean? Just being there to just listen non-judgmentally, not saying, oh, well, you got kids. People with kids will still take their own lives. And I need people to understand that.
If not just theirs, they're with their kids too.
Right.
They'll take their kids' lives too.
If somebody's thinking about taking their own life, they don't care about their vacation coming up. They don't care about their wedding date. So don't even mention those things. That is not what they care about. What they care about is this pain and agony. And so I think he's doing a really good point. I said bad, I'm sorry. That a lot of people are thinking about things illogically, like they're called cognitive distortions, right? And so their perception of things are very distorted. And so you have to get them to understand, like, you being alone and in your own head is not helping you. So let's talk about some positive things. Let's talk about who you really are at your core. Let's talk about some of those things that we know that you are. And so that's why affirmations are important. I don't know if y'all used to watch Being Mary Jane, where she had
with the yellow Post-its.
You gotta do that every single day. Like that's what you got to do. And so the other thing, what I love about our culture is we love to joke and make fun of people. Like if somebody had them sticky notes all over their house, everybody, it would be the running joke of the family. But we doing that at the expense of some people's pain. You know what I mean? We got to quit using people's pains as joke. And so if that's what somebody wants to do, you got to support them in that. If they want to color, if they want to, ride bikes, if they want to build Legos to make themselves feel better, you need to be right there helping them build them Legos, because people are really going through it. And so you got to figure out what is important to that person, what will make them feel better. And that's it. Some people think it has to be this long drawn out thing to help somebody that is suicidal, and it's not. It's just asking, what can I do for you right now? Is there anything? If it's just laying next to you, and I've done that with friends who have been like, look, I'm ready to take myself out. And I say, I'm going to just lay here. I'm not going to say nothing. But I'm just here.
I've been that person who, and you and I talked about it off mic, but I have no problem, because I've been to therapy, but just accepting the fact that I'm not alone, but I've been that person, the person who what I've learned was who is contemplating suicide doesn't want to die.
They don't. Mm-hmm.
They just want to stop hurting.
Yeah.
Yes.
They
exactly.
want you to hear what they're saying. They don't they're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And they just want you to see, because they want you to see them differently, because you can't see them. You can't hear them. It's kind of like screaming in a room full of people and nobody can hear you.
Right.
And it's not like you have something special to say. You just have something to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so don't say, "Oh, girl, you just about to have your period," or "You'll find you another man," or "You just got some badass kids," or "Girl, you need to have you a drink," or "You need you an effing man. You need to leave that job," or "Girl, you need to work out, do some yoga." We have to stop doing that. That is, just laying with that person, like you said, and just listening to that person, like you suggested, helps a lot, because maybe we just want to hear ourselves and we just want to get it out.
Yeah.
So don't put us under the rug. I don't know if LaShawn, you want to say something.
I think sometimes we use the wrong words too when we're describing this disorder and we're describing the person. We're saying you're stronger than that. It's not that they're weak for thinking the way that they do,
Right.
Like, come on out of that. You're stronger than that. I had to really learn those words because you hear it so much. You're a strong Black woman. You're this, you're that. So much so that you think that when you have a moment of being vulnerable, you're weak.
Right.
Yeah.
And people that are going through this disorder, what I'm learning is that you can't, weak and strong are two words you really don't want to use too much with them.
Yeah.
It's like you always, it's just, affirmation is very good, but it's always like, you can do this. I know you got this. It's always affirming what they're doing and telling them that. But I'm learning those words, not to use those.
I'm so glad you said that. And there was so much more that we needed to talk about, but we're out of time. And it's like that went so fast. So Jessica, how can we find you? How can we reach you? Through email? Is there, social media? How can we reach you?
Yeah, so my email is swcc.help@gmail.com. And then I'm on Instagram at tritherapy_SWCC. I always have to think about that. So at tritherapy_SWCC. And so if you just want some information about mental illness, I post a lot under all of my posts, like numbers to go to therapy, numbers you can call if you are in crisis. Like I post them every other post. So, and if you want to contact me to do some type of consulting for your business, for your church, whatever type of organization, you can always do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because Jessica was in the community when I met her. She was at the Harambe, the Black Festival, like next to the African clothing. Jessica was right there, like, listen, before you buy that outfit, check your health. Check your mental health.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that.
I didn't get my shirt. I got to get my shirt, though.
Yeah. So my website is www.mentalhealthpeas.us. And I also just created a free mental health journal, so you can download that on my website too. So get you a t-shirt and a free journal so you can take care of yourself. Okay.
We'll have the link posted on the video. Also, we'll have the link posted at urbanmediatoday.com. You know how to reach us. You know how to follow us. I want to give the handles, but Urban Media Today Talk Sports is like next.
They right in.
They're right on our heels.
Wrap it up, preacher. Wrap it up, preacher.
Appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you learned something today. I am your radio chick, Kiki Brown.
And I'm the chatter chick, LaShawn Tipton.
And I'm your millennial, Jerry Tipton.
We got to give Jessica a chick name.
The mental health chick, the therapist chick.
Did we already give that mental health chick?
The self-love chick.
Self-love chick.
Okay, I like that.
Self-love
Jessica
chick.
is the self-love chick. Yes. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. It's the Hey Girl Hey podcast on Urban Media Today.
Hey.